Hey guys, Lizardlea here for Lotsa Stockings and Mittens 2022 flowers. I have no idea what else to call it. They don't have captions. If it'll focus. Okay, if we put it... It has nothing else to focus on. Why isn't it focusing on it? Stop focusing on me. Oh my goodness. Camera. Fine. It's these flowers. And as you can see, I've done it in the past for the Reeds family. That would have been in Japan, so it would have been before I was videoing my cross stitching. So this should be new for us. I think I've done every single one of these at some point in my life. You know, I'm acting like I can't tell if I have or not. Done all those. Done all those. Where's the other one? Yep, done all of them. I will say I much prefer now where I can like take a picture of the pattern and mark it digitally so that it's easier to keep it around to do it again in the future. But the blue colored pencil I use, like I can still see the pattern and everything in there. I keep slouching. Okay, so yeah, I can still see everything and I can still see the lines. So the worst thing is just I've folded it so much that, you know, the edges where it folds, it's very white. Can't really see through it. But I'll be able to do it. And then the next one I'm doing will hopefully maybe be the last, is the kitten that I did last year? The year before? It's gonna be that kitty. I know I've done that one for this channel. And so I was thinking, since you guys have legitimately already seen me stitch it up close, maybe I'll put my camera here, or like, you know, somewhere else so you can see it from another angle. Because it'd literally just be the same video all over again. So, I don't know. We'll see. Been talking for 3 minutes. I'm gonna go cross stitch now. And I pulled out all of the colors that were on this page. I just grabbed all of them because I was like, I don't want to try and guess what ones are on here and what ones aren't. And it was very easy to do because I'm very organized, so yay. Oh, I wanted to mention, I found out this morning Emma Caulfield, who played Anya on Buffy the Vampire Slayer, has MS. And she's had it since I was in high school. So, yeah, I you know, she lived with it for over a decade and is still just as beautiful and wonderful and awesome as ever. I liked Anya, so it must be bunnies. I'm sorry, I'll shut up now.
We're going to talk about Moon Knight, which we watched like months ago, or at least weeks ago.
A month or so.
I feel like it was in December, which would have been months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good show, though.
It was. I liked it. I feel like I saw it got some bad reviews, but I very much enjoyed it.
I thought it got pretty good reviews. People don't like the ending, but they like the rest of it.
Oh, maybe that's what I just saw. I don't remember how it ended. I liked it. Go, do your spiel.
Okay, so there's a guy, and he's like, yeah, I have these
Mark.
weird nightmares and dreams, and it's a problem. So, like, he, like, ties himself to his bed, and he lives a very boring life as a... He works at a gift shop at a museum.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Although he clearly should be working as actually one of the curators, because he knows everything about all this stuff.
He loves Egyptian culture.
Yeah, and so he's got this kind of silly, weird little life, and it's not very exciting, of course, but other than this odd, he can't sleep sort of thing.
Like, he tries to date one of his coworkers.
Well, no, he apparently asked out one of his coworkers, but he doesn't remember doing it.
Yeah, but then he asks her out when he will remember it.
Yeah.
And then he forgets what day it is, and he shows up on the wrong day, and she gets mad at him. Like, yeah, our date was supposed to be 2 days ago, and you ghosted me. Like,
And the reason he forgets what day it is because it's been 2 days, and he does not know that.
yep.
It's not that he's just forgetful, it's that what's going on, spoilers, I guess, but I mean, you're going to find this out pretty quick anyways, is that he has an alternate identity. And not just like, oh, a superhero, but as in like multiple personality disorder style alternate identity. And when he sleeps or blacks out, that other identity takes over and does stuff, and then it tries to put him back so that he doesn't notice that anything has happened. Because he has all these little traps he tries to set to catch himself to see if he leaves, and he is apparently somehow circumventing them when he is the other self. So this other self has made a deal with the god Khonshu.
Yeah. Best character.
Yeah, who is Liz's favorite.
He was your favorite, too.
He was. That's why certain things happen the way they did. And that god has given him the power to, get a cape and a suit and fight and stuff.
He becomes a superhero.
Yeah, and it's really, really fun because they do a couple of things really well. They handle the multiple personality thing excellently, and they also, like, it's actually quite funny, and it's quite fun. It does a good job serious. It balances its stuff really well. And then they also, I really like how Ethan Hawke plays the bad guy hero. It's a very unique take on a bad guy, because it's not super unique, but it's the I believe I'm doing the right thing, which can be kind of phoned in, and they didn't. They did a really good job, in my opinion, handling him. So it's kind of hard to explain without like diving into spoilers, but like there's a section in the middle that I really, really love. That's just so clever, because it kind of messes with your perception of reality, even though we as the viewer kind of are pretty certain we know what reality is. You still don't know for certain because the character's crazy, and like that's the whole point of Moon Knight, is he's always struggling with how crazy he is.
I don't think crazy is the right term. He literally has multiple personalities.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you want to call it. Just he's dealing with the fact that like he can't trust himself.
Yeah, and he can't remember things.
It's kind of like, Fight Club, but constantly going.
The computer graphics are spectacular in this show. Like, I don't know if it was every time he was in the Moon Knight costume, but it looked like it was CGI, but it looked spectacular.
Yeah.
And obviously Khonshu, the moon god, was the best part. He was amazing. Everything about him was perfection.
I think my favorite thing about Khonshu is, he's petulant. Like, they kind of make fun of it at one point, but yeah, he's not super aloof and refined or anything. He's very strict, like, oh good, the idiots, and
I love the way he talks about Mark. It was hilarious.
He's not what you expect when you hear, it's going to be an Egyptian god. It's just a very straightforward, like, well, just do it already.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes was, in my memory, it was very early on. It was the car chase. Mm-hmm. And you only see it from Mark's perspective. Mm-hmm. When he blacks out and Steven takes over, you don't get to see that. So at one point, he's driving, he blacks out, he wakes up and he's got a gun, and he freaks out and he throws it out the window. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, it was so good.
Yeah, it's a really well done scene, and it's a good action scene, and they have a lot of fun with it. and him trying to figure out what's going on. And then they have a lot of fun with, well, not fun, but they do a really good job with a lot of the later revelations and like who's what and like, you know, which character is whom and just all this. Again, I don't want to dive too heavy into spoilers because I thought it was really good and I highly recommend it. So in the off chance you still haven't watched it and you like Marvel stuff at all, it's good. And also, I will say it stands on its own. It does not have any links to the rest of the Marvel mythos. So you can watch this right now. Like there's no like, well, you need to know who Iron Man is, or well, the Hulk, or this is a raccoon who talks and shoots people.
You also don't need to know Greek mythology, or excuse me, Egyptian mythology.
Yeah, you definitely don't need to know Greek mythology.
Yeah. I corrected it as soon as I realized I said it.
And I'm
okay, you don't need to know Egyptian mythology. They do a really good job of introducing everything. They don't like throw something at you and just expect you like, oh, everybody knows about Anubis. Like, they explain everything.
Yeah, they find time for it. And they do it pretty elegantly, because, you know, they have...
Well, because Mark's character is so excited about it.
Yeah,
that, like, he's, you know, he wants to tell people about it. I loved that.
And there's a lot of little call-outs to things that'll matter later and whatnot. It's very, very clever. And it's... I'm glad that it's so clever, because it does a really good job of, like... showing how fun these stories can be. I was somewhat curious what they would do when I heard they were doing Moon Knight, because it's a darker comic. They definitely toned it down, but they kept some of it in. It's still Marvel violence, and that like you're not actually seeing most of it. It's like discretion shots or anything like that. And I'm not necessarily like compared to say the first season of Daredevil, where there is some stuff. Marvel absolutely has that level of violence in stuff. That was not for the show, frankly. Daredevil's more violent than that in many cases. Daredevil is one of the more violent comics because it's about the fact that he's just kind of a person who is often, frankly, getting the heck beat out of him. But
in Hell's Kitchen, of all places.
Yeah. But, this one they didn't really... How to put it? They didn't really do anything as much as the comic would have, but they did go farther than Marvel usually does in a few cases. I don't know, I thought it was good enough, you know. I know there's going to be people out there who are like, oh, this is stupid, it wasn't, you know, you didn't follow the comic and it's supposed to be way more violent.
Enough. Yeah.
Well, I can sort of get that, like, hey, this is kind of a toning down of, like, what this is supposed to be, but it's still good, in my opinion, so...
I didn't watch the Punisher show. Was it violent enough to be Punisher? Because that one, in my mind, when I think of violence, I think Punisher. Like, that is the first comic that comes to my mind.
Yeah.
Like, he almost always has a gun, or he's fighting people with guns.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of shooting and stuff, but I don't recall it being... I don't recall it being as violent as the movies that were made before it.
Ah, okay. And even those weren't as violent as the comics, if memory serves. It's been a while.
Yeah, so... It's good stuff. It's just,
They're not pushing the envelope?
Well, yeah. Well, and that's what people were hoping for, because, I mean, Marvel has this weird issue where it's owned by Disney, and they've obviously been doing wonderful with it, although this current cycle and the previous cycle have some duds, so to speak. Here, actually, Quantum Mania is not that great. But
I love Paul Rudd.
Yeah, me too. But I hear it. Like, they're like, the parts that aren't bad are good. And it's like, well, that's not a great review.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of these properties like Deadpool and Daredevil and Jessica Jones and whatnot that came beforehand. And that were very successful being more adult-oriented. And there's a lot of comics that are very adult-oriented. Some of them are actually good.
See, but then there were stupid parents who brought their kids to Deadpool and Deadpool 2 and complained and complained.
So either way, Disney has said Deadpool 3 is still going to be rated R and just as gross and violent because they know that's what it is.
Well, that's good. But I feel like Deadpool's the only one they fully commit to with that.
Right. Well, they haven't yet. We still have to wait and see. And then, yeah, Daredevil, so far, they used the actor in one movie, which I was super excited about, because he's great, and he deserves better than Season 2 and 3 of Daredevil. Well, 3's okay, 2 is... Ugh.
I've only seen 1, right?
Yes. Jessica Jones is next, and then we go to other things.
Did we talk about Daredevil on this?
Or
Or did we not? Because we only did one season.
I don't believe so. Yeah, it's not even in here. I didn't put it in. Daredevil. No, it's not in there. So yeah, it's a great show, and it's a great show because it's more adult oriented. And Moon Knight could be like Daredevil. There's more than enough material to make it like the first season of Daredevil. And I sort of understand the like, so this one's also going to, kind of tone it down, which is, I think, part. If it weren't under the Disney name, like if it was still owned by Disney, but Disney Marvel, and they had some guts, it would be smart of them to branch out, because the whole thing that Disney's been taking advantage of, well, Marvel in general has been taking advantage of, is, hey, we have 60, 70 years worth of comic book stories. It covers every genre imaginable. There's literally not a single one that hasn't been done, and so many have been done that there's at least a few good ones in every genre imaginable. There's a lot of junk out there, but as long as we're decent about cleaning it up so that it fits in a 2-hour runtime or a 1-season runtime, and making it approachable so that you don't have to know about 40 other plot lines that already happened, which they're now starting to struggle with, it does a really, really, you can do anything. But they've completely locked themselves out of all the darker stories. Like, one of the best Iron Man story arcs is Demon in a Bottle, which is him
being a drinker.
Him finally struggling with his alcoholism. And, like, there is no villain to my memory, or no main villain.
I mean,
it's just...
the alcoholism is the villain, yeah.
Yeah, it's his struggle with it, and that's actually a really interesting story that they didn't touch.
Is it because they willfully, chose not to, or because it was Robert Downey Jr. and he's had his own
I mean, if anyone could
issues.
play that, I don't know who made what call, but the short answer is they clearly didn't.
Yeah.
So it might just be like, well, nobody wants to watch him go get drunk all day. Like, they want to watch, him punch somebody through a building, so we're going to have him punch
Playboy
somebody.
billionaire philanthropist.
Yeah. And so...
Not alcoholic.
And they did toy with it maybe a little, but no, they didn't. And that's a minor one. Like, an alcoholic is... I mean, he's a crummy person during that, don't get me wrong, but, it's not as...
There's not blood and guts.
Right, you don't even have to commit to all of that, but there's lots of really interesting and good stories that are in that, and Moon Knight is one of them that have blood and guts, and that's part of the whole problem with Moon Knight is, the character has these moments where he's doing horribly violent things, because that's what that one does. And they, again, kind of tweak on that in this one. I don't want to spoil things, but they do touch on that. You do see him doing a lot of violent things, but this could clearly be a lot more dark and visceral. I don't even need to see the violence, so to speak, but just having darker subject matter and dealing with darker consequences and whatnot, more serious, this is a big problem, rather than, we saved the day, but so it is. I do like the scene where he's like, well, you said I have a suit. And so he has a suit.
Oh yeah, when he's not in the cape one.
Yeah,
because what is it? It's Steven's the one with the cape,
mm-hmm.
and then Mark is the one in a freaking suit, and they both looked so spiffy. I loved both of them. I think I ultimately have to go with the cape, although there's no capes. I still love capes. The Incredibles will never take that away from me. I love capes.
It's a very cool cape, for what it's worth.
It's a really good cape.
And I have to say, the costume design is phenomenal. Given what is basically dark Batman, or, dark mode Batman, less moral Batman is kind of what Moon Knight started as.
But in white.
Yeah, but they did a really good job with updating the costume and making it very, very cool.
Oh yeah, I really loved it. Not gonna lie though, I went into it like Moon Knight, Sailor Moon season 2.
Everyone's favorite.
Yes. No.
And that is the end of flowers from Lotsa Stockings and Mittens for the Christmas ornaments of 2022. I got 2 hours and 16 minutes of footage. I do have a complaint about the pattern, and this was a complaint I had prior to me ever coloring it. They use a solid black line for some outlining, and it is the exact same thickness as the black lines that mark every 10 stitches. So I kept going back and forth between the pattern and just the image, because I was like, is this a line or is this an outline for the project? Like, I can't tell. But there are spots where there are definitely lines, or, you know, for backstitching that aren't on here. And I know that because they were not part of the every 10 lines. So I think I mostly went with what this had rather than the pattern. But I did make a mistake. I added an extra stitch at the bottom. So that very, very bottom quarter stitch here is supposed to line up with this quarter stitch, but it's one stitch below because the stitch above it isn't supposed to be there. So yeah, I'm not infallible. I make mistakes too. But I mean, it looks fine, and looking at how it's going to be in the end, it won't be an issue. So if it was that big of a deal, I would have gone in and fixed it, but I didn't notice it until I was doing the back stitching, and I was like, oh well. I don't think I actually said anything about it when I did the hair in my mouth when I was doing my intro. So this is Janlynn counted cross stitch number 021-1001, Lotsa Stockings and Mittens, and the designer is Sandra Garbrand. I don't know. I don't know. So there's Sandra Garbrand, I guess. I don't know. It's from 2005, so I always try and put the information for my patterns in the description, but if I accidentally copy and paste from the previous ones with the Christmas minis, please let me know so I can fix it. I want to give proper credit where it's due. So far, I think I only have one more Christmas ornament, so we're finally coming to the end, you guys. This one is definitely going to be in 2023. My bad. So, yeah. I was about to stop recording. I need to do my outro. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that jazz. And I'll see you guys in the next video.